Okay, we're starting with the purple, green, and blue again. We'll do another flower. The first flower is a wilted flower. This one is a newer flower or younger flower, so it has a different shape, and we'll just start like the last flower with putting in the shading areas, mapping out where you are going to add shadow, and do that with your dark blue and do it very lightly. These drawings are done in my sketchbook, and this is where I test designs and colors and new looks, and put the blue not on the edge but close to the edge. That will be your bending effect. And I'm going down the veins to add the blue. That will add depth and texture towards the end. And always apply it lightly in the beginning. You have many layers. I use Crayola because you can add multiple layers without difficulty, as long as they're light layers. I watch some of the videos on YouTube, and it looks like people are laying down their colors too thick and too heavy at first, and towards the end of the project there's too much wax. Crayola is wax. Prismacolor, I have Prismacolor and very thin. Those were required color pencils in college art, and so those are something I'm familiar with. And the Prismacolor is very, very waxy, and a couple of layers, even if you do it light, is about all you're going to get. Maybe 3 layers and it'll start acting up. You're pushing around wax instead of color. And I see people doing blending sticks, rubbing, erasing. All those things damage your paper, and then it won't color correctly. It looks like the paper has been damaged. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to fall into that problem. And over time, you're going to have a problem with Prismacolor because they call it wax blossom, where the wax actually comes out of the color. So you draw something, and 5 years later it's covered with white powder wax. So Prismacolor has about a 5-year, maybe a little bit longer. It depends on how it's stored. Oh, around the edge, now you're ready to put the lime color. Just put it on the very edge and blend it with the blue. The blue that you put there to cause a bending effect, to make it appear to be bending 3D. But anyway, so I had Prismacolor from college, which was 30 plus years ago, and they had pretty much self-destructed. They were still in the pencil. The lead was, it was all waxed blossomed all over the place, but the core had become very brittle. And it was meant, Prismacolor and very thin is used in college classes. It's a learning color pencil. It was really expensive in the 80s when I took art. And it was made in the United States. It's made in, Prismacolor is made in Mexico now. And it says it on the pencil, Mexico. And so when I went ahead and ordered new pencils. I had Crayola, so I started with Crayola till the Prismacolor could come in the mail. And Crayola is medium soft, and it blends very well. You can put 4 or 5 layers on top of each other and get great effects. Your layering creates other colors and combinations of colors. So layering is very important, and it's primary in the build-up of your project. Don't put all your wax down at one time, because then it becomes unmanageable. So I get the new Prismacolors, and they're not the same quality. The wood even is different. The pencils feel different. They're not as heavy as they used to be. Or it's the wood, it's the wax, it's everything. They're not the same as they were 30 years ago. But things change. And but like I said, Prismacolor, a lot of people use it because it's brilliant and bright, and that's great for coloring books and things. But if you plan on putting them in a frame, or giving them to friends, or even selling them, you should give a disclaimer that this project will self-destruct in about 5 years. It's called the light scale, and that is color pencils exposed to light causes the separation of the wax. Now there's several kinds of pencils, and some of the better pencils are oil. Now there is Holbein, the ones from Japan that are not sold in the United States. You can't buy them and you can't resell them, so you basically have to buy them from overseas and have them shipped here. It may be my age, but what happened, 30-40 years ago was that Japan hunts whales for oil and fat, and they shoot or harpoon the calf so that the mother stays around so that she can be killed, and the fat and the oil is taken from the whale. They usually just leave the baby to, I guess, starve or eventually die, but predators get the baby, and so you're actually killing 2 generations. And Holbein is, people are wanting it. It's a mix of wax, oil, and fat. It's a real smooth pencil, but the oil and fat is whale. That's the reason those pencils have not passed the safety regulations for the United States or Great Britain, is because it's illegal to hunt whales. There's other sources of fat and oil besides whales, and Japan just about killed all the whales at one time, so it's a problem. So support Holbein and you support the whale issue. And I don't have those pencils, and I'm not going to. All that happened when I was a young person, and I'm 63, so that was, 50 years ago. But I've seen on there where people say, I don't know why they're not sold in Great Britain or can't be obtained. You have to go through all different avenues, and the company's not willing to talk to anybody about the difficulty, and because it's illegal. And so that's the simple truth. And the Faber pencils are probably for my needs, or the way that I draw and the way I color, which is layering, are the best for me. Prismacolor and very thin are not the best, but I use them. They're a complement to any pencil collection, but there's issues. And when you deal with any of the wax base, and these Crayolas that I use are wax. So I basically use my sketchbook for experimental designs and finding new color combinations. Like makeup, you look for combinations that work well together that might not be what other people choose or what other people like, and they work. So this is my sketchbook, and I have another one full of stuff too, where I experimented with, irises, different flowers, different colors. And I like to take a flower and apply color that is not normal or not typical. Anyway, in this flower, I'm just going up the veins with the purple. I shadow with purple. I never use black or gray or white. The white areas are just not colored, and that's your highlights. And your lowlights, the shadowing, I do with blue and purple, but mostly purple for the details and everything. Purple basically goes with any color. And Crayola is somewhat transparent, so adding shadow and adding texture is very easy with transparent pencils. So for all my needs, Crayola is great, easy to buy, not expensive, easy to use, layers very well, medium soft, so it doesn't cause me to have a wax buildup, and there's no need to fight it with the wax and everything. I've seen people use the mineral oil spirits to blend, and that is somewhat watercolor look to me. So I do watercolor too, so actually maybe you should move on to watercolor. The fact that pencil looks like pencil is okay. If you're looking for watercolor look, then maybe start studying and practicing with watercolor. Watercolor is a lot of fun. It's very, very unpredictable, and you have to plan ahead. You have to figure out, well, watercolor is done by putting your light colors down first and then you get darker, darker, darker colors, but it's layering as well. The misconception is that watercolor is laid down like oil. You know, you just lay it down all at one time. That is not true. It's just like color pencil. It's a layering effect. And excuse me, the more you do, the more practice you have, the better you'll get. But I'm not doing this to create artists or create you to change your mind. What you prefer is what you prefer. I'm just offering tips on shadowing and different color combinations and some things that you can do while you enjoy your coloring books. I don't think that people need to have multiple sets of colored pencils, but it is an obsession with some people. There are some YouTubers that have mentioned that they have 20 to 30 or 30 plus sets of color pencils, and I don't know why you would do that. And when they have all those pencils, I'm not sure what the goal is, but basically you need a set to practice with and to learn, and a book that's experimental. I draw my own coloring book or sketchbook or whatever. I draw my own, so I just draw whatever I want to and then try another effect on it. So it's easy for me to just figure out a color scheme and see what it does on this or that flower. I draw other flowers, but my first videos are these azalea type flowers, and that's because they have so much detail to work on, and there's so much learning that would be possible, and so much texture, which is what I'm trying to show is so easy. Like these veins, if you just follow up and down them with the purple, you don't have to really shade. You don't have to, you know, do maximum coverage. You just go up and down the veins, and the pencil will actually help you and do the shading for you. Sometimes a little bit does a lot. Too much is too much, you know. So be light-handed and enjoy your coloring and add shading. I've seen some people do pretty good shading here and there, but the whole project wasn't shaded. It was only a couple of places, so that the project is not complete. If you're going to shade, then shading technique needs to be applied to the whole project. Not shading is confusing. It doesn't bring your colorful, beautiful coloring book together. So you have to keep the style that you draw, and the style that you color has to be consistent, because then it makes some parts really, really flat, and then some are 3D. And that might work if you have 3D flowers on a flat surface, then that makes sense. But doing it off and on or whatever is inconsistent, and you want it all to come together. It's a project, and it's all done in a similar fashion. And I think I'll do a video about a lot of different other aspects that might be hard for people to hear, but it's a learning process, and there's ways or shortcuts with drawing. It doesn't have to be difficult. I've seen people do extremely difficult things for no apparent reason. The outcome was just, it was great, but it didn't need 40 steps. Really nervous. Some videos make me nervous. There's so much activity of going back and forth with pencils, and it's better just to work with one pencil around, then another pencil around, then another pencil around, and that way you can look and judge that it's all matching and similar, and you don't end up with a really dark petal and a light petal, and you just accidentally skip the blue part or something. But anyway, I'll have another video after this, and I'll do a leaf. And hope you enjoy using different colors and different designing of colors. You can pick the colors you want to use. You don't have to copy anybody. And I'll just talk to you next time.